Well rising family, love and balance to you all. Another edition of We Meditate is here. For today's edition of Reminded of Self, I want to briefly touch upon serpents. Now the word serpents has many different meanings to it, depending on your level of knowledge or your background experience. You may have a positive or a negative association with that word. Serpents can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, simply because serpents actually come from the same place. And serpents actually represent dualism in a very, very intricate and intimate way that can be understood and expressed if we better understood the serpents within ourselves. Now, the serpents within ourselves that I'm alluding to, we're talking about Kundalini. It seems to be Kundalini season right now over here at We Meditate. But essentially it is true, because as far as the transformations that are taking place in the earth and the planet and with myself, Kundalini is definitely rising, because we are transitioning from an intellectual age where it's all mental stuff and how well you could have brain power and talk all of this wonderful, beautiful things, back to a place to where it's about action, about what can you really do, about what can you actually manifest, about what type of person are you really going to be, and not what type of person are you going to present as an illusion to the world. And so again, this all goes back to this whole Kundalini thing, because if we are endeavoring to be consciously aware of what is going on with ourselves, consciously aware of what is going on with the planet, consciously aware of what's going on with society, we must look at it from the spiritual lens, or from the spiritual view. And when we look at it from the spiritual view, we can see a whole host of things happening, portals opening and closing, energies and vibrations arriving and leaving. And all of those things are wonderful. And we all have our different reactions to those things, which is why we have to do our own individual work to understand what those reactions may be. But in doing the work, we must understand the core of our physical self and the core of our spiritual self. And one way to get into that core and explore it and rearrange it, fix it, change it, is through the work of Kundalini. It's through the work of the serpent. And when we talk about the work of the serpent, we can talk about it on multiple levels. When we talk about it on the level of mythology, the serpent has taken on many, many meanings. Some of the positive meanings of the serpent talk about awakening. They speak of wisdom. They speak of being able to maneuver. They speak of the same slithery nature that you see in a snake, but using it as an advantage for your own personal identity. Not being a backbiting snake, not being someone who's sneaky and crafty, but being someone who presents themselves in a way to where nobody wants to mess with them, because no one can truly fully understand who and what they are. And that's essentially what's going on again, because none of us truly fully understand what the hell we are. We could act like we do. We could act like we're in control. We could act like we know exactly what's going to happen at every single moment. But let something crazy happen in our lives, and it'll test our resolve. And it'll test what we think we know, how we think we feel about each other, how I think we feel about ourselves. Life will throw us something that will, cause major upheaval and challenge us to be completely different persons. And this is about the serpent, because the serpent transforms just the same. The serpent can look one particular way for a long time, and then it will grow up and shed its skin. And in shedding its skin, there is a possibility that the patterns on its back, the patterns on its stomach, the patterns on its face will be completely different and completely changed. And this is what the rising of the serpent means. All of us, again, have serpents, but not all of us deal with them. Now, it is what it is that some of us are taught to ignore the serpents because we think that they are evil, dark entities, which is the other side of the tree, so to speak. Because there's not necessarily anything as evil, but there is unbalanced, or there is darkness and things that dwell in there that can maliciously hurt you if you do not know how to interact. But the basis of evil and darkness and things of that nature as in regards to the serpent have nothing to do with some type of attack on your soul or some stealing away of your vitality in your life. It's actually about you doing that to yourself. It's about the coiled serpent that refuses to rise up and allows fear and sadness and emotional negativity to bog it down and weigh it down, and in turn weigh you down and never actually transform your life. So, again, getting back to a little bit more of the science of it, let's go right into how the serpent can actually affect us in multiple ways. Dealing with the serpent directly, we're talking about the Kundalini, we're talking about the coiled energy spirit, we're talking about the base core of your spine, we're talking about how your kinetic energy flow moves. Now, this same kinetic energy flow moves in accordance to your thoughts and your emotions. And so if you've got positive thoughts, positive emotions, good outlook on life, consistent effort in all of your ideals and all of your ideas and all of your deeds, the propensity for your Kundalini to rise is much greater than if you were someone who was much, much closer to negativity. If you were someone who's much, much closer to depression. If you were someone who's much, much closer to fear. If you were someone who's much, much closer to laziness. All of those same negative qualities and traits. These are the things that help suppress our Kundalini serpent. These are the things that help suppress our ability to get up and move and do things every day. And again, this is just for the practical side. Metaphysically speaking, when we raise up our Kundalini energy and we allow it to completely rise up to the top of our crown, we go through the process of awakening. And this process of awakening does not just make you quote unquote woke to where you like, oh, I'm not gonna vote no more because I know it's all a sham. Or, oh, wait, I know this whole planet is nothing but a process and I'm gonna go back home afterwards. Like, it's not just about detaching from engaging in all of the worldly experiences. It's about us becoming fully aware of how energy, light, energetic bodies, vibrational wavelengths, forms of consciousness are all interacting with us and becoming more and more vividly aware. And when we endeavor to raise our Kundalini internally for the sake of consciousness, raising up consciousness, we will have to go through the process of balancing out our body, balancing out our emotions, balancing out our outlook on life, balancing out our outlook on ourselves. And see, and this is what this whole Kundalini work is. You know, many of us got this thing all messed up and thinking it's supposed to be some mystical thing and all of this extra side stuff. When honestly, you can do all of this yourself by simply going into your own self and dealing with your own memories. And then allowing peaceful thoughts to come and enhance your life. Peaceful thoughts to come in and enhance your day. It's very, very practical. Now, of course, you can get into some very, very deep practices and learn occult and learn secret code words and vibrational things about how to speak, you know, and do all of this cool magic. But even still, even when you learn all of this magic, learn all of these powers to how to quote unquote cheat code your way to unlocking Kundalini, if you have not gone through the process of relieving your fear, if you have not gone through the process of balancing out your emotions, if you have not gone through the process of cleaning out any perception of blockages or things to hold you back, all you're going to do is unleash a very, very intense amount of havoc into your life, or at least cause a transformation in your personality that will leave you acting like a completely different person to what you were before. And so, when we understand this whole Kundalini thing, we got to understand that it's about the contraction and the expansion of the individual soul and the expansion and contraction of collective consciousness. And all of these things are modeled through the ancient mythologies. And the model is such to help us see the grand picture. When they talk about a Kundalini serpent or a cosmic serpent, they're trying to see the grand, greater picture. They want us to see something that is much bigger than ourselves. They want us to understand that everything that we're seeing operates within and is a part of a multiverse, a multi-layered universe something that is not even quantifiably identifiable. They want us to expand, raise up and expand our consciousness to those quote unquote limits, to the place to where there are none. But on the flip side, the universe also collapses. And this same collapsing is the darkness, is the destruction, is the change that must take place. But when we don't understand darkness in full, we will mess around and use our same Kundalini energy and start manifesting destruction, being agents of things that are not good for our own well-being. And in turn, in the larger sense of things, bring forth destruction that may not necessarily have to take place when it does manifest into time. So, when we talk about ourselves, we have to figure out if we're going to expand or contract. And when we talk about dealing with Kundalini, when we talk about dealing with raising spirit, when we talk about dealing anything with internal work, really, we're asking and working with ourselves to make sure that we do not collapse when the challenge of life calls us to expand. That we will have the emotional strength, the Kundalini strength, to continue to grow and reach up higher and deal with the resistance that exists at that next level. When we talk about this whole Kundalini and understanding itself, we can see it's actually laced around everything. When we look at astrology, we talk about the wheel of astrology, how it's a full circle and it connects. There's a center point to that circle, though, to this astrological circle of the 12 zodiac. There's a 13th zodiac called Ophiuchus. And this Ophiuchus is essentially the Christ consciousness, but it's the center point of the circle that everything that's around it is expanding in. That same center point of the circle is the center point of the consciousness. How you doing? How you doing? And that same center point of consciousness is the center point of your Kundalini. And as we initially go through our life, our Kundalini is coiled down and pressed together, and it's spun around itself to make a circle, i.e. the zodiac, i.e. our personality traits, i.e. the 12 fragments of the brain, i.e. all of the multiple divisions and emotional states within the body. And so, when we don't do spiritual work, when we don't go within ourselves, all we do is march around our emotional zodiac. All we do is circle around the same cycle of events. All we do is go through the circle of time, repeating the exact same place of Kundalini experience. And we keep experiencing it in the same way, maybe just manifested in a different form, but still on the same energetic frequency, same energetic level. It's because of the Kundalini itself is on the same level, meaning it's still resting down in the root chakra. It's still resting down on its laurels. It's still accepting things as they are without going through the process of change, without doing the work of change. And yes, it is actually all happening while it's still being a Christ, or while it still has Christ within it, while it still has the highest power operating through it. It's simply just not being used because it's coiled around itself as opposed to up and beginning to expand. And so, if we really want to expand our life, we need to start having more Kundalini type experiences. Now, many of us may not understand how to do a internal meditative, Kundalini raising, but we can raise up some emotions. We can raise up some of these problems. We can raise up some of these situations that we keep avoiding. And if we go and face the situations and the problems themselves, they might just invite us to a Kundalini raising that we need, which would be the practical change that causes us to be full, that causes us to be whole, that causes us to be complete. And we're only going to be complete when we break the cycle of time, when we break the cycle of fear, when we break the cycle of negativity, when we break the cycle of being who we are when we first came and begin the process of going up, reaching higher, dealing with life, and becoming the adept which has the raised Kundalini of wisdom, experience, personal power, and no fear. And when we do those things, we break through the cycle of time. And things begin to turn. And then things begin to expand. So if you're watching this right now and you know your life is not expanding, if you know things are not going well for you, and you know it is not because it's just your season and it's just your turn to have destruction and transformation take place, that means it's time for you to look within. And it is time for you to have a Kundalini raising experience. Meaning it's time for you to go back and fully assess what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, and see if those things are in alignment with who you are. And if they aren't, it's time to go through the practical changes to align your internal life with your external life. And as you go through the challenges of aligning all of those steps, the invitations and the situations and the people that you will encounter will be the physical manifestations of the attempt of you raising the Kundalini. And if you face them and give your complete self and allow whatever to pass without judgment, you will have successfully unlocked the chain in your consciousness and opened up a whole new door for you to explore. And then when you explore that consciousness and grow within it, your Kundalini will rise up and inhabit that space. And as it inhabits that space, you can carry it on into your day-to-day consciousness and your day-to-day experience and allow the expansion process to commence in full. This is Kundalini. This is your soul expansion. This is you. Here's your reminder to self. Many blessings. Love.